We're all up here and we're all serving the church because we saw our parents serving the church.
It's really cool to see it kind of come full circle now that my kids are in the youth group that really kind of made me who I am and have given me these lifelong friendships like the one sitting right next to me.
That's just the tune of Valleydale. It's family. Ann Odom is still serving. Miss Pam Taylor is still serving. There's all these people who poured their energy, their time willingly and selflessly. And what a challenge to all of us, because it wasn't just for a season. We still see so many of these people still serving in these roles decades later.
It's a joy to see Shannon, who I got to lead her senior year in small group, and now we're in the same life group with babies in the nursery.
And our kids are serving the church during VBS because they see us serving the church. So it's a legacy that, started with a foundation that Eddie helped all of us build.
So you guys, yes, there's a legacy there. But it's because you allowed yourselves to be used of God to make a difference in people's lives. And it shows today. My name is Eddie McBroom. I had the incredible privilege of being on staff here at Valleydale from 1989 to 2004. And I was the student pastor and college pastor, and just had an incredible opportunity just to serve God with the church here. We're going to try to just talk about some things as far as the ministry and the things that were going on here during that time. I guess to start things off, I guess the first thing I want to ask is, what are some high school memories that you may have had when you were here at Valleydale during your time? Anybody can jump in at any time here.
It's okay, that's fun. Yes.
Alyssa, you're first. Go. Okay, fine.
Alyssa, your dad was
My
the
mic's
pastor.
not working.
You have to
sorry.
go.
Can you hear me? Okay, it's on now. My name is Michael Nip. I have been going to this church since summer of 1995. Became a Christian at this church, was baptized at this church. I'm just going to talk more in broad scopes, and I'll probably get emotional. I'm sorry. Everybody else can be more specific, because I didn't actually start coming here until I was a senior in high school. So I didn't go on many of the trips that everybody on the panel got to go on. So one thing that I know I wanted to talk about is just the impact. This is not going to work for me. I'm going to start crying. The impact that that Eddie had on my life was pretty huge. One of the things that I remember in various ways that Eddie would often talk about is what legacy do you want to leave in the community. I'm not talking about like in the world or whatever, but just in the community that you're involved in. And just part of that legacy being, obviously your relationship with Christ, your willingness to share with others about that relationship. Eddie always instilled that type of stuff in me and in all of us. And also a big component of that is serving the church that you attend. And so when I think about legacy, I think about every single person on this panel. Our parents were so involved in everything. And if you know everybody on here, we're so involved in everything because of just the legacy. And and even like with Sandy and I, like seeing our kids being involved in VBS from a volunteer standpoint, that's like another legacy. So when you see all these faces up here, it started with our parents. And just one thing that I know that everybody would agree with is any parent that attends this church, show your child just by serving the church. Be that person that emulates Christ in that way, and let your kids see it, because we're all up here and we're all serving the church because we saw our parents serving the church. And our kids are serving the church during VBS because they see us serving the church. So it's a legacy that, started with a foundation that Eddie helped all of us build. I know Scott was a big part of that too. I don't know who was part of Scott's ministry as well, but and this is probably the only thing I'm going to say, because I would cry even more than I'm already crying right now. So somebody else take it from, somebody take it off from there.
We're done now? Okay. I'll say something. So my name's Lacey Cortez Simpson. I think we came to Valleydale in '88. Been here a really long time. I was baptized in this church at a very young age. Calvin Kelly baptized me. So Valleydale holds a very special place in my heart. And there is not a single memory, I think, of my childhood that doesn't involve something from Valleydale. And specifically, the youth ministry. And Eddie and Mary they played an integral part in that, in shaping me as an adult. And like Michael said, we are involved because our parents were involved. And we laugh because, I always liked my parents. Like, I never went through that stage where I was like, oh, I don't want to be around them. I liked my parents. They were extremely involved in my life, at school and at church. But they set an incredible example for me and what it means to serve, what it means to serve others, to serve your family, serve each other. And I'm trying to pass that on to my children as well. But this youth group, the friendships that we made, they've carried on through adulthood. I know we moved away for a little while, and then we came back, and I'm still very close to my friends that I made in this youth group. And I really think that's a God thing, because our friendships were solidified because of God and the relationships that we developed. And Eddie was at the helm of that, and he taught me so much. And it's really important, that foundation that you start with is extremely important, starting in children's ministry, but youth ministry is extremely important. And you helped build that. And, as an adult, you may stray, but that foundation is what brings you back. And as an adult now with my own children, I'm working really hard to build that and disciple my children so that if they should lose their way, they will always come back. And we have fun memories and lots of fun memories and silliness and everything. But when it comes down to it, I am a believer and I am a faithful attender, and I serve in the church because of the foundation that was built from the very beginning.
I'm Kayla Waters Kaylee. I started at Valleydale when I was born in 1996. I was baptized right over there in that pool when I was 10. Pastor Chuck baptized me and my brother on the same day. My parents they were really involved at Valleydale. They were really involved with their life group. We were here every Sunday, every Wednesday. My dad was on the drama team. And they just really ended up forming a really good community for me here. Like, you had your school friends, but then I had my church friends that I knew I was going to be seeing every Sunday, every Wednesday, probably doing weekend stuff, probably with Shannon. And it just really gave me lifelong friendships that I knew that I could always come back to. A lot of us ended up going to Auburn together. And when I came back, whether it was just on like Easter or Christmas, or I was home for the weekend, like I was always welcomed with open arms, as well as my husband. We've been together since we were 15, but he didn't go here when we were growing up. When we did get married and we knew that Valleydale was going to be our home for us, he was welcomed with open arms, and he was able to have the community that I grew up with, as well as a new community in our life group now. And it's just been wonderful. He actually just got baptized in February by Pastor Chuck in the same pool. It was really cool. Just the community that Valleydale has given to me and that my parents started for me. They were there for high school graduation. They were there for college move-in, college graduation, getting engaged, getting married. Miss Tamara helped me paint my first house. I mean, it's just, it's been a community that has set me up for life that I know I'll have forever.
Krista McBroom. I've been here also since 1989. But as they're talking about legacy. I guess what popped in my head is that how from 7th to 8th grade and then from a junior to a senior, some of y'all may have been involved with the baton handing off that he would do. We had these bright yellow batons, and he had millions of them in his office at times, I think. But those 2 times that the 8th graders would pass the baton to a 7th grader, the seniors would pass the baton to the juniors, in that leadership, that as he encouraged us with the legacy, but it was a very visual thing of, hey, it's your turn to lead, it's your turn to do that. And I guess that really sticks out to me and how that was done, because I got to do it as a 7th grader. I got to receive it from an 8th grader, and then I got to do it as an 8th grader for a 7th grader. Junior and senior year were a little different, but as a junior, as I went into my senior year, God called me into ministry because of seeing that example. It just reminded me, okay, I have the baton now, not just to lead as a senior, but God encouraged me and led me to lead in student ministry for the rest of my life. I mean, so. But it was the years in student ministry, the community, the belonging that I felt, the adults really, from the volunteers to the parents. I mean, we spent more nights hanging out at other people's houses than we did at the church. And it was that instilling in me that really prepared me, I believe, for what the Lord called me to do ultimately. It set me up for ministry.
I am Caroline Blackburn Wallace. We joined, my parents joined Valleydale in 1989. Just thinking about what you were saying about the leaders that Eddie had under him that invested just so faithfully for so many years, whether they moved up with us in middle school and on to high school. How could we not want to turn around and serve our church and our children in the same way, as we have been so just showered upon with the Word of God and the love and service of His people for my whole life. I should be eager to turn around and do the same for my children now, and for those that are in the children's ministry and in the youth. It's this responsibility I feel that we have because we have been so shepherded so well. We have this calling and responsibility to do that. And it's a joy to see Shannon, who I got to lead her senior year in small group, and now we're in the same life group with babies in the nursery, and it's a special calling that we have been given.
My name is Alyssa Kelly Thornell, and I have been here since 1984. So I beat all of them. That's right. But to echo Caroline, I totally agree with that, because Whitney and I both graduated the same year. We won't give that out. But she and I were talking recently, several times recently, just about we had several teachers growing up that not only did stuff in the youth group time, Wednesdays and Sundays and special events, but we convinced our teachers to go take us to the beach one year, and they are probably still regretting that. But they just gave life. They were here for our life, not just for Sundays, not just for Wednesdays, not just for camps in the summer. And I think they gave us a safe haven if we didn't want to tell our parents something yet. They were great wise people that were involved in our lives enough that we could, maybe share something with them that we weren't ready to share with anybody else just yet, because they were just ingrained in our life. And it's challenging to me. I don't have any in the youth right now, but just like everybody has been saying, just being involved and letting not only your children but their friends know you and be able to trust you, and just help them go through life, and just pointing them to Christ in all walks of life, I think is just huge. And it's something that I think each one of us can say that we had. And I really think that that's one of the reasons why we are still, whether or not we had hard times and kind of maybe experimented or kind of dabbed our toes in other places, we have all come back not only to church and spiritualness, but just to Valleydale specifically, because I think of what we just were brought up with and raised with, and I'm just eternally grateful for that, and hope and pray that we continue the legacy for the next generation.
My name is Whitney Huff Warren, and my family moved here from Mississippi in 1992. So I was under Eddie's leadership from, I guess, 96 to 2002 when we graduated. Sorry, Alyssa, I gave it away. But some of my special memories growing up were in Sunday school. And Alyssa and I were always in Sunday school together. And I can tell you the names of all of our teachers, and I can tell you that I looked up to them and I wanted to dress like them because I thought they were so cute. And then I have other teachers that were fun. And like Alyssa said, Miss Carolyn Smith took us to the beach one year because we asked her to. And we called her and we said, "Can you take us to Walmart?" Because we couldn't drive in 10th grade. And so, I mean, these are people that invested in us. There were adults that invested in us. And I think one thing that is so special about Valleydale is that there were so many adults that made you feel known, and there were so many adults that poured into you and spoke to you and hugged you, and you saw them every Wednesday and you saw them every Sunday, and you saw them in the worship service, and they spoke to you like, I mean, you knew each other. And so I think it was really special, Valleydale student ministry and the church in general, is that just you felt accepted and you felt known and you felt cared for, and you were never just, no one was ever alone. It was just a big family. And Eddie and Mary, they were a big part of that. I don't think he let anyone get past him that he didn't speak to. And I think every time that we were at church, he spoke to me. And I felt so loved. And I had friendships like what was mentioned before. I had friends at school, but most of my friends were at church. And I did not go to school with most of my friends at church. And so it's just such a special place. So many special memories, so many special people. And it's not like you had friends based on, a certain group of people. In my mind, the friends that I made at church, they were just all just equal. It was just like you didn't see them on the outside. It was, you saw them for who they were, and you saw their inside. And that was just because of the love of Christ that they had inside of them.
I'll go. My name's Brad Jones. I started attending Valleydale in, I think, 1990, so quite a while ago. I'm younger than Whitney and Alyssa. So by 1 year. I have much less hair than they do, and they look better than me. And as I've been listening to everybody and just thinking about the relationships, and obviously there's a theme of parent involvement. Even a lot of the people sitting here on the stage, Alyssa's dad baptized me, so I want to say I was saved in 1991 or 1992 at VBS at Valleydale. Whitney's dad was my senior year Sunday school teacher. So the one thing I will always remember, and I've said it many times, Stan Huff said, "If you lie with dogs, you will wake up with fleas." So I have hung on to that for a really long time. But I think the cool thing is that there's still all these people that we're talking about are still they're still working on their legacy, right? Like it's not done. You know, Stan still goes to church here, and his family, and obviously Whitney's part of that legacy, and now his grandkids. You know, I called Eddie. We met last Sunday, but you know, it's just I said, hey, has anybody seen Philip and Jill Glasgow? Philip was my Sunday school teacher for many years, and he was incredible because we were teenage boys, and we talked about some things that were probably not things you would want your teenage boys to talk about, but we're teenage boys. And Philip had this amazing way in Sunday school. He would let us talk, even though there was a lesson and all those things, but he would just let us talk for 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of class. And whatever was going on in our life, he had this incredible way of just taking that, finding some scriptural story or verse or whatever, and giving it application and helping to guide us and guide our decision making. You know, I know my mom was involved with some of the drama team with, you know, some of the people that are sitting on the stage. And even just, I took my kids to Dallas for spring break recently, and little Eddie, as we called him, who is a year older than me, I probably had not seen Eddie since, you know, we were, I mean, maybe in college. I think I went to the Bristol race one year and went to Carson Newman and saw him. But, you know, I probably spent 2 to 3 nights a week with Eddie growing up. And it just felt like old times. Like you know, we just had, you know, we started right where we had left off. And so, but yeah, I do remember just, again, like all the people that poured into our lives, people that are still pouring into our lives. I mean, Caroline's dad is my, Vance Blackburn is my life group leader today. And so I think it's neat to think about, and, you know, makes me think about like, what is that legacy? But then it's cool to see the people that are, have been so faithful and consistent for so many years. And yeah, a lot of the same memories. Like I had 9 groomsmen, and 6 of them were people that I went to church with, and they were my friends. I remember, I mean, Brett Long was my best man. His parents, Joe and Delana, still attend church here. Fun memories of Mr. Joe making us do push-ups when we were in 4th grade. If we were misbehaving in class. I hope that makes the video. I hope Mr. Joe gets his reckoning for child punishment. Yeah, hazing, exactly. So that probably would be frowned upon in today's church. I did ask Hannah one time, how far can I take punishment in the preschool ministry? So, but the tons of great memories, great legacy. You know, people that poured into us and are still pouring into us today.
I'm Sandy Estes Phelps. We came here, I believe, in 1992. My family, we were baptized as a family, all of us together. Alyssa's dad married Matt and I at the old campus. Yeah, Valleydale, like any memory, any highlight, any important thing to me from growing up was Valleydale. And to be honest, it was Eddie. I know he doesn't want me to say that, but even still, so many years later, when I walk in now on a Sunday morning and see him, I'm so excited because he was such a important part of my life. Him and Mary always welcoming us into their home. Wednesday nights, I mean, it wasn't even, we didn't wait for an invitation. We all went to the McBroom house after Wednesday night church. We did not have cell phones then, so we then all waited in line at the landline to call our parents and beg for 30 more minutes at the McBroom house. Those are some of the best memories, being at y'all's house and just knowing it. We were always welcome to come there. Anything we needed, anything we wanted to do, we were always welcome at that house. And so, yeah, this youth ministry was such a big part of my life, probably the most important part of growing up. And so, yeah, I'm thankful for the McBrooms. I'm thankful that my parents are still here. Like, to still go to church with my parents is important to me, and I'm thankful for that. I have a son who I cannot believe is going into high school this year. So, like Michael said, seeing him volunteer last week at VBS, and he had so much fun, already misses the children he worked with, loved every second of it. To know that I guess I've kind of passed that torch you were talking about, Krista, to my son, and then my daughter, who's also in the youth group. It's really cool to see it kind of come full circle now that my kids are in the youth group that really kind of made me who I am and have given me these lifelong friendships like the one sitting right next to me.
My name is Shannon Compton Dawson, and I guess we started coming to Valleydale 1996 about. And most of you probably know my mom, Kathy Compton, who worked under Eddie, and many pastors and roles have since played out since then. But as I'm hearing all of you talk, so I know you said you were younger than Alyssa, but I think we win over here. We're real young. But having grown up, a lot of my childhood memories take place in the trailers where my mom worked, where a lot of you probably have a lot of these memories you're talking about. They're some of my very first memories of church. And it's really cool because a lot of you are talking about this family and the legacy that all these people before you have laid. And not generations, but years later, that's still the song of Valleydale, as I remember it. Chuck and Tamara, Chuck, I remember sitting in his office and him walking me through this book. I can still see it. It's very lovely 90s colors with this cream color. And he walked me through it and baptized me, my sister, my little brother who's now in ministry. And then now my son is here and Tamara keeps him during the week, along with Krista, who used to babysit me. But all that to say, that's just the tune of Valleydale. It's family. And Odom is still serving. Miss Pam Taylor is still serving. There's all these people who poured their energy, their time willingly and selflessly. And what a challenge to all of us, because it wasn't just for a season. We still see so many of these people still serving in these roles decades later. And they do it beautifully and selflessly. And I just think it speaks to the heart of Valleydale and this church that we have this legacy to speak of. That's so unique, I feel, having visited other churches when my husband and I were trying to find our home church, even though I always knew where we'd end up. But this place is so unique, and there's people who care about each other, but most importantly, they care about the heart of Jesus, and they care about the service.
My name is Tommy McLeod, and I first visited here with my family in the fall of 1992, so I was going into the 8th grade, and my earliest memories of visiting here was of Eddie. And, as a 7th grader going in 8th grade, you don't appreciate at the time what it takes to have a room full of kids and hold their attention. And there were no video screens, and there were no, there wasn't a separate band. Eddie was a one-man show. And for those who can remember Showbiz Pizza, the keyboard player would be up there. And so I remember Eddie singing to the tune of Louie Louie, Pharaoh, Pharaoh.
Yes.
Can we do it all now?
I'm sure y'all can figure out how it goes, but just seeing him up there, just doing whatever it took to hold our attention, and then to find a few minutes in there to slide in some just what's important, and just all the things that they've talked about up here, and just laying those foundations that it's sort of like tricking your tiny kid to eat their vegetables. Like, you don't realize at the time, but just these little things to cling to as you go through middle school, you go through high school, and you get into situations, and it's just you have something there, and I can't say much that hasn't already been said, but just the seeing our families serve as we were growing up, and then being able to serve now. My older kids are around the age that I was when I first started, attending here. And so it's a tall order, it's big shoes to fill to model for them the way that it's been modeled to us. And it's just a blessing. And I know that nobody here would take credit for it. I know that it's the Lord working in our community, and I am very thankful for that.
Tommy, also, you mentioned keyboard. Your sister played the keyboard in the Wednesday night band, his sister Tammy. Tammy and I shared a locker in high school, just, little side story. Tammy was one of the few people in the group that went to high school with me. And so, but that was something that I just realized, is that as high schoolers, we had an opportunity to serve and use our talents for the Lord. And Tammy did that, and John Milton did that. John sang, Tammy sang, and played the keyboard. Very talented. And but there were other band members. Matt Latta, did he play guitar? And David Mark played the guitar. Yeah, a lot of them sang. So, we were able to use our gifts and talents as just high schoolers. We did that on Wednesday nights, and I loved Wednesday nights. I looked forward to them every week, and I loved going and eating dinner ahead of time, and then going to the youth group and finding friends. But then also it was just special because Lacey and Sandy sitting back there, I remember them. They're my brother's age, but I always remember looking up to them and just knowing that, once again, we were known. I knew them. They would speak to me even though they were older. And I just loved Wednesday nights. Eddie, we would all sit on the floor. We didn't have chairs. We would sit on the floor in the trailer.
Beanbags.
Or beanbags. And we would open our Bibles and we would just listen to Eddie teach. And he taught in a way that really was applicable to where we were. And I still have my Bible with notes in the back of certain scripture references. And it was just, Wednesday nights were special.
I just want to throw out that I loved Wednesday nights so much that my parents would ground me from Wednesday nights. When I got in trouble, they knew where to hit me where it hurt. So just kind of a plug if anybody, needs to.
You never got in trouble.
Just the one time I got in trouble. But should something like that, right?
I'm having a flood of memories now.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah, I have to say,
don't tell them.
I just thought of Brandon Thomas.
So Tommy brought up about how Eddie was able to command a room of teenagers, and I want to bring up the fact that you traveled with teenagers a lot. I have so many memories of so many trips where we were able to serve and do mission work and drama and the shenanigans that happened too. We just have so many stories, and I don't know how you traveled with us, because I remember just things in my brain. I was an annoying teenager, and y'all put up with it. And Keith Martin, I just remember stories of things that we did, and I don't know how you did it, because I don't know if I could. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, and I don't know how he got away with cramming 85 students on one bus, because one we thought broke down, but it really ran out of gas.
And we were all we were so dehydrated. We were worried we were not going to have water in the middle of the desert of Texas.
Right. We were all essential, so we had to be on the trip.
Yeah, but the non-essential, adult leaders got left back, and somehow the nurse was not essential when we went.
Well, as I sit here and I hear everything it's said, it's because we had a church and a pastor that was willing to take a risk to let me do whatever I wanted to do within the boundaries, within certain boundaries. But we had a church that allowed us to develop a ministry to be able to give students experiences that they could pour into other people. And I remember several times when we would go places, when I would take y'all places, if you went on a trip with me, that I had other students from other student groups come up that wanted to be like you. But that was because of what Jesus was doing in your lives. And you influenced students that you probably never know that you did. But just looking at the things, all the memories, one thing came into my mind was bus trips, bus rides, hours and hours and hours on bus rides, because we would go to Wisconsin. Of course, I think, did we fly up there?
No, we flew to Canada.
No,
We
flew to Canada. So, yes, I don't know what made me think I could take 90-something people to Canada. So,
We only lost one, I think.
yeah, no. But just the memories of the things, you know, that happen on trips, and just how we saw God move through the students of this church. And again, I echo the parents that were involved in going on the trips. We couldn't have done it. You know, I've been doing student ministry for 45 years. And I still call youth workers and tell them thank you, because it's not about us. It's about what God wants to do through us. And that's what we've seen happen through the students that are on the stage here, and hundreds of other students that have come through the ministry of this church over the years. And so I think so many times of the memories of the things. I remember particularly when we would do the prayer walks, when we took the team up to Vancouver. And for the first time, some of us saw the lostness that a person can truly be with no hope, and realizing that unless someone tells them about Jesus, they will never hear. So you guys, yes, there's a legacy there, but it's because you allowed yourselves to be used of God to make a difference in people's lives. And it shows today. And so I just want to tell you, if I haven't told you lately, how proud I am of you and all the things that you guys have done and what you're doing and what you're going to do. And I just want to thank Valleydale, because they took a chance on me back when I was young, not knowing exactly what they were going to get, I guess. But there again, that's our God is a God of miracles. And but just, you know, I think about some of the camps and the times that we did a foot washing, and how I saw God move, and just broken hearts just in you guys to want to serve and want to lead. And I'm just overwhelmed with the memories. And so I guess that's, you know, I love you guys so much. And just going forward, it's exciting to see what God's going to do through you.
I will say, and please, you know, God can be used in many ways and in all sorts of ways, but please never bring show choir back. God cannot be used in show choir.
I love the drama team and the show choir so much.
I loved your green striped shirts, for those of you that were on that trip.
Those were the greatest thing ever.
You know, someone that's not been mentioned has been Keith Martin. Memories of Keith and he and I getting in trouble together as staff members.
Did y'all get kicked out of Wednesday night church too?
We almost got kicked out of a conference. But no, and just realize, I don't know how many of y'all were on the trip where you were middle schoolers and you were in Washington, D.C. Were any of y'all?
I was there.
I wasn't born yet.
You wasn't born. Was not born. Okay. So, but anyway.
Was it just me? I was the only one?
I didn't go there.
It was the True Love Waits thing?
Yes.
Yes,
If
I remember
if the over
that.
40 crowd could please step up.
But anyway, just to see Keith Martin try to get 36 middle schoolers across 6-lane highway in the middle of D.C. That was I wish I had a camera. We didn't have cell phones back then either. And but that just the things, but then to see too, just how he really loved you guys too, and he poured into you. If you had anything to do with choir, even those that didn't like choir liked choir because of Keith Martin's leadership in the ministry at that time. And but just incredible memories of stuff like that. Summer camp, winter, spring break camps. I've
Camp Horizon.
I've taken places that probably no student pastor should ever take you, but yet you did not complain except for a little bit. But
as long as you weren't driving, we were safe. Let's be honest. You drive like you're in NASCAR in a van with the Valleydale logo on it. It's terrifying.
The Alpha and the Omega.
Oh, yes.
You always had to be in the Alpha, didn't you?
We did not ever stay at hotels. Like, it was not about
Maybe
anything
motels.
Lamar,
fancy.
Colorado, we did.
It was about just just bebeing there to learn about God. Like, it wasn't about.
Well, it was gyms. You slept in gyms.
Our host homes. We stayed in
host
four host
homes.
homes too. Yes,
Yeah.
which that would not happen now.
That don't exist
No.
anymore.
I don't even know if the word bougie was even a word back then.
Maybe
No.
for the two back there.
But I keep thinking about mission trips and missions, and at the time, I didn't realize how much our church invested in missions as a youth. But that was a huge part of the student ministry, was missions. And I vividly remember coming up to church week after week after week, preparing for a mission trip. Yes, we did training. We did mission trip training. And some of us on specific trips, some of us were on a cooking team or puppets or prayer, or, we all had different roles on mission trips. But I do remember being trained on, the Roman road and how to talk to someone about Christ and how to share the gospel with someone. And I hope that that's not forgotten for future generations, the training and the preparation and the prayer that goes into mission trips. That's something that really, looking back, is so impactful, because Valleydale is a mission-minded church. Not just the student ministry, but now I recognize that the whole church is mission-minded. And that's also something else that's really special about Valleydale, is just being intentional with missions.
I think too, Whitney, like a lot of those experiences that we had, and to the youth that may watch this, if you haven't had the opportunity to go on a mission trip, or it gave me a very keen understanding at a very young age of how fortunate we were to live where we live, and have I think, knowing most of you, we all had two parents in our house, right? And that's something that is not lost on me even today, that we were so fortunate to attend church where we attended, to have the parents and the parents of friends that took care of us and volunteered and chaperoned and did those things. And then obviously the ability to serve, but just so fortunate to have the life circumstances that we have and have opportunities to pour back into people. I think, just in a social media age, and I don't have teenagers yet, I'm getting close, but I know it's so easy to compare our lives to somebody that has more than we do, but go on those mission trips and seeing people that needed assistance or needed help in some way was very impactful.
I do just real quick want to shout out a couple of names that haven't been mentioned yet, because one thing that Eddie always did really well was cultivate like his juniors and seniors and those that were going up into just continuing to serve. And Scott Burks always allowed like a senior that was coming up to serve with his volunteers and serve with whatever interns he had. And I wasn't necessarily impacted by Scott because I was of age to be in his ministry, but him allowing us to serve and to help him in his ministry was awesome. And then Valleydale at that time, and they're working on that again, I think, is having a college ministry that was really vibrant because of Sybil Johnson. She came around that time that, a lot of us were in college. Well, me and Tommy. Everybody else on here is really young. But Sybil Johnson was really impactful on me as well, just because she had a team of people working with her that were continuing to mentor college students. You think, oh, you're a college, you're an adult now. Well, no, you need that mentorship. And, she allowed members of this church to continue to mentor the college-aged people. And that ministry is very much needed, and I'm glad that Valleydale is continuing to try and do something like that.
This probably will not make the video, but I'll share with you since a lot of you know Scott. If you know my mom for any period of time, there's nothing more she loves than pranks. Kathy Compton thrives best on pranks. I remember one meeting in particular. Eddie probably knows where I'm going with this, but at the time, Mom, Eddie, and Scott were all working in the trailers. But Scott had this very important meeting, and I forget who was coming in, but my mom snuck a flatulence machine into his office, and as he was conducting this meeting, Mom went in front and she would pretend to drop things and bend over and be really embarrassed that Scott, that she had flatulated. And is that the right word? Flatulated? Sure. In front of these, yes, in front of these guests, and so Scott had to have a talking to with my mother, but just thought I'd share that little funny with you since a lot of you know.
That's amazing.
I'll let them decide, but just thought I'd share that.
Please, I know. We probably need to do these weekly.
So something that I started thinking about is we're thinking about, other people that were leaders and serving in the ministry. I was going into my senior year when Scott Burks came on staff and took over high school, and so actually it was really fun for me to have a different youth pastor my last year of high school. It always had been my dad. Yes. And so. But it also gave me the opportunity to serve in middle school as he did it. But as I think about Dad and Scott, I also think about my mom and Kelly, and to watch both of them, work right alongside them and do ministry with them. And, Kelly taught me as a senior. And I know she taught seniors after that, and my mom always taught seniors. But just to see that the impact that they had on us. And I remember a mission trip in particular. She may not like me for sharing this story, but when we went to Canada and we landed in Canada, and they did not have all the cars that we had rented ready, and Dad is trying to take care of it. There are like 90-something of us, middle school and high schoolers, running around, and Mom is trying to get all of our attention. And Drew Hadaway's trying to help her, but he's not really helping. And she...
That's weird.
She stands up on some ledge, so she is taller than he is, which if you know Drew Hadaway, he was huge. He was super tall. And she's over him, telling him, I've got this, to get all of our attention, to tell us what we need to do to be ready for the next thing. Because when we went on mission trips, you always had to be flexible because you never knew what was going to happen. And so instead, I think of like 3 or 4 vans, or like 4 or 5 vans. I don't know. There's lots of us. We had like 20 cars, like with kids in them, and having to find people to drive these cars.
I just thinking about mission trips. We did so many different things, like you mentioned, Whitney. It never felt like work. It never felt like an inconvenience. Even the New Orleans trip, when it was so hot, we were out there painting that church and probably singing or being silly while we did, because that's what we were there to do. It was just so many great memories and so many, like you said, Krista, we were flexible and we just rolled with it and we enjoyed every minute of it.
I'd like to say that because of said mission trips, I learned how to hang sheetrock, lay tile, and do all the things that my husband does not know how to do. So,
Why you gotta throw Jason under the bus right
You're
now?
putting that on
he'll
me.
tell you that he can't do it, but I can do it because of those things. But it's like you said, it wasn't work. It was fun, and we were serving, and we were doing great work for these churches too that needed this stuff done. And I mean, I'll tell you some of those little the backyard Bible clubs that we used to do. Specifically, I remember the one in Vancouver. These small children in this neighborhood. Like, I really think that put a calling on my life, because later in life I became a preschool director at a church, and I still love VBS, and I love being able to pour into preschoolers and these young children. And I really think it started at a young age, going and doing these things that you helped teach us, and you gave us the opportunity to do these things and to learn these things. And we laugh about it, but it was serious work, and we did a whole lot.
Well, and I think about the different mission trips that we went on, and I threw everything at you guys. Sometimes it was backyard Bible clubs, sometimes it was work related, sometimes it was just middle school trips, and sometimes it was just high school trips, because I split them up, and we did different things, tried to give you different experiences, because it was always my hope that somebody in the group might be called to missions. So I try to give you every different opportunity of different types of missions in order to see what God might do with that. And y'all responded incredibly well through the years. And I guess that's the one thing that blows my mind. I can't recall anything that I took you on, whether it was camp or whether it was a mission project, retreat, or mission whatever, and it not working. I mean, y'all were just so flexible, and your parents were. Now, there were some probably conversations behind the scenes with your parents at times,
I don't know what you're talking about.
but some of your parents were the ones I had to talk to behave, too. But it was just amazing how the experiences we had, y'all were just so flexible to do it. And I don't know if you remember this guideline, or I remember said no rules. We always had guidelines that you always would leave a place better than you found it. Y'all remember that? And that we would not leave, and we couldn't go home until it was that way. And y'all did it with joy and love. I mean, well, maybe not joy. But
it was fear, Eddie.
It was fear.
We were scared of our
really,
parents.
And the thing about it is, the people that wherever we stayed, they would always comment later about how incredible of a job you guys did. It didn't matter where we went. But there again, y'all, when you went, you were the leaders. You were the ones that were the influencers. And I just let you go. I mean, I just let you go. And that's the best way I saw to do it, is let you lead, even if you messed up. And I know that there were times that you messed up, Brad. But the thing about it is, God just all those years were just special that God was using. And it was not because of me, it was because of what you allowed God to do with you and your parents, because we would never have seen the things we saw without your parents, especially your mom, because your mom pulled me out of so many things at times and helping me plan.
I'm surprised she didn't push you into them.
Well, I did have to, kind of rein her in at times.
We still do.
Okay.
But I think most of us here, I loved that we got the opportunity to do a local mission trip, a national one, and then an international one at some point in all of our years of student ministry going through it. We got those opportunities. So it wasn't just one type of mission that you taught us, but it's multiple locations. We got to understand multiple locations of being able to go, because it wasn't just within the U.S. all the time.
I don't do this. I'm Mary McBroom, and Eddie is my husband. I was thinking about Vancouver, and my youngest daughter was not supposed to go because she was too young, but there was nobody to leave her with, kinda, and we decided we'd let her go. But she was doing some prayer walking, and she was standing at the Buddha, and she was praying, and she saw a mom come and kneel down and pray, and her maybe 3 or 4 year old child came and prayed too, and it just broke her heart. Who was going to tell this child about Jesus? And at that point in her life, God laid it on her heart to go and do some missions, across the ocean to worlds that you're not supposed to even speak his name. So she started out when she was 15 and went to India. She was 16 and went to China. And then God took her to Thailand several times. But that impact, that visual for her, it burned in her heart that this is what she was going to do with her life. Another thing y'all have not talked about is extracurricular activities in the middle of the night.
At my house. At your house.
And my house became very colorful several times, from being rolled and flamingoed and forked and dotted and
I thought you were talking about the time that my dad took us down the Panama City Strip in the church van.
Oh my! That's another one. Here, I'm done.
I just always assumed Eddie would clean that, and you had nothing to. So that's why I did it.
No,
personally.
he didn't clean. We cleaned it. If you didn't get
Sorry,
caught,
Krista.
I had
Sorry,
3 children.
If you didn't caught, the 3 of us cleaned it up. So we always tried to help him make sure they got caught, so we didn't have to clean it up.
And everybody knows to clean toilet paper out of a tree is to light it on fire, but not during the fall.
I think only certain people knew that, Brad and Michael.
I don't
Look, I
remember
mean-
ever doing that. Did I ever do that to y'all?
Not us. You did somebody else.
I did?
Wheels on the truck.
You only do that to people that you love. That's why we
Well,
did it.
and there were some students that were involved in actually taking the tires off of somebody's vehicle as well.
Did they put
Brad?
the Vaseline on the steering
Were you
wheel
a part
too?
of that, Brad?
I don't remember. honest to
I'm
goodness,
pleading the.
I don't remember.
Plead the fifth.
Pleading the
Okay.
fifth.
My son knew about it, but he didn't tell me. And it was
a
at
good
his
friend.
house that it happened, but he didn't
That's a
do it.
good
He
friend.
said.
We were talking about, things that are legacies for Valleydale that were true for y'all and then true for us. So rolling was also true for us. We were just texting last night talking about doing this video, and I was like, why is it the only thing I can remember is, was it Flood Weekend? But we weren't old enough yet. Like, our older siblings were doing Flood. So Kathy was working. So Shannon came to spend the night with my family for the weekend during Flood. And we're up in my room, like, going to bed. And we hear my dad, like, running out of the house, making a fool of himself because somebody's outside rolling our house. And it was Kathy.
As they were lovingly keeping me so Mom could work.
You hear my dad screaming. He's like, as I'm watching your child.
Yeah, and flood was something. That Scott started.
Yeah, that was a Scott.
And we did it, and it was a D now, is what it was. And that was some very special moments, too, where God moved in a lot of the homes, as well as coming together. But that was something, again, that how many parents opened up their homes to let 8 or 9 teenagers come in. I mean,
Put holes in their walls. Eat all their
yes,
food.
all kinds of things happened. And like Rolling Yards, which was strictly forbidden, and your mom knew that.
She also follows guidelines.
Yes, she does. But yeah, but that was another special time were the times that we did the D-Nows.
Well, D-Nows were always great after we graduated because we got to come back and lead them.
Or at least if you get to do middle school.
That was so impactful visually on that Sunday after D Now, when like the whole front of the church would be students wearing the same T-shirt, trying to stay awake
Good
and
T-shirts.
listen.
Good looking T-shirts.
But there were hundreds of us. I mean, it felt like hundreds. I don't know.
Well, maybe a couple hundred.
Okay, but it was impactful. Like the whole front you would see would be the same color, and
Yeah, because we would be in 25 homes between middle school and high school. So there were a lot. It was not just the students involved, it was the parents, and then we had leaders. And that's something we hadn't brought up really is interns.
Oh, I brought them up.
So, but I mean, we had, as far as all the interns we've had over the years, every one of you had a different intern that you could probably remember that may have impacted your life. And Valleydale allowed us to be able to bring in a college student to pour into you guys. And we had some good ones. We had some that probably, well, we had good ones. We had mostly good ones.
No, like David Ray was one when I was around. I
Dre.
loved David Ray,
Dre.
David Parks. I mean, those two guys spent so much time, and they were one of some interns. They spent so much time with us. And that is impactful because you look up to those type of people when you're younger because they're not that much older than you like you were. And so it's somebody a little closer to your age that you could look up to.
Michael, how old are you?
At the time.
I remember one summer, Caroline, you may remember this, that or really as a semester, that we had about 18 interns in middle school. All of these college students just wanted to serve, and they wanted to be a part of what was going on here. And they were incredible interns. And most of them, probably 90% of them were from Sanford. But it was just the intern ministry that the church allowed us to have was amazing.
We've talked a lot about the mission trips and stuff, but now that we're talking more about things around here, that's what was so amazing to me is probably, especially in the summer, almost every day there was something we could be doing with each other. It wasn't just Sunday and Wednesday night. I spent many Sunday nights at your house, Michael. We had there's prayer meetings at the Nips house. Just looking around, I'm like, I did so many things with so many different people. And I know you mentioned boot camp. I don't remember.
That sounds like too much work.
There was just always things to do, like the lunch bunches or going to a Braves game or hanging out at Eddie's house. Like there were so many things we could do, not just the trips that, it just, completed the summer, completed our year. It was just so much fun. And then a slightly serious note, or very serious note, Eddie mentioned the foot washing earlier. Things we did for each other that strengthen relationships and such. I remember doing that so vividly. I know Eddie had, he mentioned to me recently that there were a lot of parents and kids in the room, who may have washed each other's feet. I remember having a friend that we just had not been getting along very great lately, and to go and wash their feet and to kind of break any walls that had been built up. Things like that you don't ever forget. Those friendships and those deep memories were very, very big deal to me at the time. Still.
Okay, so y'all were all probably, I don't exactly remember, but do y'all remember the bash?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Just thinking about that.
the bash where at the beginning of the smash
Michael,
and the
you were
bash.
too old for that.
So I
was too. Thanks, Brad.
At the beginning of kickoff in the fall, the church just did a great job of getting students on campus. And so everyone just would go tell their friends that there was the bash on Wednesday night. You would get an old beat up car, and everyone would get a chance to swing a sledgehammer.
Can we bring this back?
Why did we not do this while we were?
And then the smash was in middle school, and we got to just smash some watermelons and some fruit, and it was a huge mess, but it was such a fun and easy way to get kids on campus and then to get plugged in. There were cool T-shirts, and
I think we should do this as parents.
I think Lacey wants a bash for like children, parents of middle school children, like work out some.
We
mom
could just do a
aggression.
bash for their reunion.
I think it might be best. Yes. And we need to make T-shirts.
I don't know. That sounds kind of dangerous.
Did y'all have the food fight?
We did not have planned food fights.
No plan. They were impromptu. Throwing grits on the wall.
We had a food fight at one of the camps, at the end of one of the camps, I believe. But
I thought we had one at the beach one year. We stayed at that little compound at Panama City. It was a compound. You had like little huts and there was a pool in the middle. And we did. Do you remember date night?
And it had the high bars around the.
You remember date night?
Yes. I love that.
Bailey Burks was my date one year, because I guess we had odd man out. So Scott's daughter.
That was a high school thing that Scott did, and like Bailey was like 3.
Yeah.
So it was.
So it's about your speed, Brad.
Thank you, Eddie.
Back then.
Yes. I won't. Since we're being recorded, I will not channel my inner John Jones right now. And
okay, did any of you go on when it'd been middle school the mission trip over to Columbia, South Carolina?
Yes. We were in 8th grade.
Okay.
Right? Does that sound
All
right?
right. Do you remember the bee lady?
Yes.
Where we went and she made us. She had all these honeybee hives out, and then she gave us honey and biscuits. That's why I was happy, because it was honey and biscuits. But what I remember about that is that one night we stayed at Columbia University. That's where we stayed. And I told all of y'all just to go over in this little room and just be quiet and stay there and don't do anything bad. And I took all the adults, and when I had to meet with the adults, and we just spent some time with the adults. And we came back, and you guys had started to worship. And John Milton got his guitar out and was playing, and y'all were doing worship. And that was just the some of the best worship I've ever been involved with in my life has been middle school worship. I've been some great times. I've been to Passion conferences. I've done things like that. But that right there, when we walked up on it and heard you guys worshiping and just singing and lifting God up, and it was so moving for us as adults, because y'all were on your own. There was not one single adult in the room, which that may have been a miracle too. But in middle school, but it was really that was a precious time. I'll never forget that.
We are so glad that God blessed you with us.
That's a great way of putting that.
Yes. Again, I want to tell you guys how much I love you. And, of course, I didn't really get to spend much time with y'all except when we invaded your house and y'all were little. But I'm so blessed. Mary and I, we are so blessed. And to have the opportunity to have the experiences that we had at Valleydale, and they're still happening. And God is still moving, because he's moving through y'all. And he's moving through this church as it ministers to this community. And I just want to tell you guys how much I love you.
We love you too, Eddie.
We love you too.
We do love you too, Eddie.
You too, Mary, very much. Yes. We knew who was the driving force behind it all, right?
Sometimes we love you more, Mary.
The end.
Yeah, we can say there is one
All
thing.
done.
I think almost everybody here, we've been in your home in some form or fashion with some activity somewhere when you were in student ministry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Every one of you. That was one of the coolest things that I think I saw, is how involved not only your parents were in involving you in ministry, and they involved in ministry, but they involved their resources as well. And And I think that was a lot of the sweetness of that time, you know, just the blessing of being there.
Maybe in closing, maybe this doesn't make it, but I know they'll give us the clip, but I think it'd be great if each one of us took a turn and just named 3 or 4 people that have been impactful that we can remember. So I think that could, one, be an encouragement to somebody that is on the fence about serving, but 2, just a thank you to those people that are likely still going to watch this. Could we do that?
Yeah, sure.
So I said a little bit earlier, but I remember Philip Glasgow, Stan Huff. They taught us in Sunday school when we were younger. Of course, you and Scott. I remember Patrick Nola, who still goes to church here, being heavily involved, and certainly continue to be thankful for Vance and Karen, Caroline's mom, in shepherding us now as adults.
Yeah, I can real quick. I mentioned him earlier, but I mean, at that time, David Ray, David Parks, huge impact on me. Sean Hall was another one that is still a guy that I would consider a mentor that I still call often and talk to him. That's.
I'll say Pam Taylor, Kathy Taylor. I mean, not Kathy Taylor. Sorry, Kathy Jones. But even David is still that he's still helping too. But Pam and Kathy, they were, since GAs, act teams
They did
within
our drama team.
Drama team, so many things, and I continue to see them, and it makes me so happy to see them, and it's just exciting for them to get to see my kids now too. So it's so fun.
Do you remember Janet Longenecker? Our Sunday school teacher.
Yes.
That was a good one. Yes. Other than that, I figured we'd have the same one.
I know. I was like, okay, I was going to go first so that you had the copy. Yes, but you go.
So, Calvin and Paula allowed me to live at their house in the summers, and Alyssa and I, we would just, spend hours and days together, and I had the opportunity to get to know her parents as people and not just the pastor and the pastor wife. Like, they were real people, and Alyssa's dad is hilarious. I went on beach vacations with their family, and so they impacted me as a youth and in a personal way. But then also Miss Kathy and Miss Pam and Miss Delana, they were like mothers to me on trips, and so they were always very special. And like I mentioned, like our Sunday school teachers like impacted, and just the time that they spent every week preparing for lessons and always being there and showing up. Miss Carolyn is sitting over there, Carolyn Smith, and I think about Donette's mom, Jan,
yep.
and Jan Coffey, and Lana Race taught us, and so many. And Kelly Burks, I still keep in touch with Kelly Burks. Do you remember that time I came and visited you guys?
Yes, I do.
In Texas. I guess I was out of college. And I came and visited and spent time with Krista and Eddie, little Eddie, and Kyle and Jessica Walker and Scott and Kelly, and I got to see Corey, Kate, and Bailey, and so that was special. Just still keeping in touch with them.
Well, Whitney took all of my people. Sorry. Definitely Miss Carolyn, and Miss Connie Hadaway. I just have to pay tribute
Farrell.
because they're the ones that took us to the beach, and they're the ones that y'all are just too nice to us. Kelly Burks and Jessica Walker did, I think our junior or senior year, we would do like a dig group, like a Bible study on Sunday nights. And I remember, I guess once I could start driving in the summer, I would go all the way out to Alabaster and hang out with Kelly and eat. She would make brownie batter, and we would just eat the brownie batter. But I was like, she was a young mom, and I think about myself, and I'm like, there's no way, or I should let people come to my house, but nobody wants to come to my house probably like we wanted to go to Kelly's. But I just think she had little bit. Corey Kate was a newborn, and I would come over and just hang out. I mean, like, you know, she didn't invite me. I just would come over and just hang out for the day and stuff during the summer. And then Lana Race, I remember she was a young newlywed, and we just thought she was so cool, and
She always had the best shoes.
she was so sweet and soft-spoken, and we probably were a lot for her. So, but yeah, gosh, I mean, I feel like we would go back and forth. She talks about living at our house, and I lived at their house too. I feel like we all just circulated, you know. And I know you guys, y'all were at our house a lot too, with Hillary, and it was just the good old days.
We need to mention David Dollar, because he still goes to church here. He did a lot in Butch Dill and the Sumters, and then Amaryllis. She still comes around too. She did a lot too.
I love that. David did tell me that he's getting a walkabout group back together. So,
For the reunion.
yeah, for the reunion. Walkabout was his drama group. So,
Middle school drama.
It was a good time.
That's two words that go together no matter what.
I would like to give a little shout out to a lot of the people that taught me are still here. The Francises, the Barleskis, the Roberts, Ann Odom is still very faithfully serving. I feel like I'm missing just two moms who always pray for me who are still here. Patty Cato and Diane Quinn will pray for you in a minute. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton more because having grown up here, there's so many people.
And Patty would host at her pool, the girls' pool
the
days.
Soak and float. We
Soak and
had
floats.
yes, Bible
Learned so
studies
much.
and float in the pool. Soak and float.
I think for me it was Jill Glasgow, and then Kelly Burks, but then also Pam Taylor, Kathy Jones, and really truly Kathy Compton, because I was up here all the time with that. So just the time that I got to spend with those women was really impactful.
And I'll add real quick, Whitney's parents, Stan and Elaine, your dad still comes up to me and remember that time we went on this trip and did this? So they were definitely very involved too.
Amanda Cranston, that was another one.
I'll mention Vic Pascal as a influential presence during some of those times. And I'll also mention Keith Martin was mentioned, and I was, I guess, the only one in this group involved in the instrumental side. So I have to mention Jim Duran as well.
Oh, yes.
And he would use that. He was the high school band director at Pelham, and he would use not just for the music, but he would recruit high school students to come, and he could get students into the church that wouldn't even darken Eddie's, door, the youth group. And so just, they would be a part of the pageants, the Easter musicals, and I mean, there was an impact there. He would just use that to reach those people. And I'll also mention Paula Kelly, because she was the coordinator, and just the time that she put in, and it was just the way that they gave there. I wanted to mention them.
One last shout out to Rosie's. Bring Rosie's back.
it's Rosie's Cafe and there's not much to see.
Caroline can lead it.
She's ingrained. In closing, I would like to sing a solo.
Well, and I would want to mention some people that were probably, they probably got me in trouble and kept me out of trouble. First and foremost, John Jones.
He kept you out of trouble?
Yeah, I don't know.
A couple at certain levels.
Okay.
Farrell Hathaway, Stan Huff, Calvin Kelly. I mean, I could tell you some stories about Calvin.
You should. We have time, right?
No, we're not going to go there. But Calvin's the one. Calvin's the one that took a chance on me, and so I'll forever be, thankful for Calvin, and I guess I could say it's his fault. So.
Can I interject? And that every time we drive to, I mean, even now, probably not
That
that I
Cracker
drive.
Barrel?
Every time we drive to Atlanta, He says, that's the exit I met with Eddie McBroom every time. Douglasville, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, it
Douglasville.
is.
That's where I met Eddie McBroom, that Cracker Barrel right there.
Vance Blackburn.
Yeah.
You know, those men meant so much to me in my life as a student pastor, because there's a lot of times, you know, I have other student guys that I'd work with, but within your own church, it's hard to find somebody and that you can really confide in, really share with, really do life with. And all those men I was able to do life with. And I'm sure there's some others that I can't remember, but guys, it's just very easy to say that God gave us some incredible memories, incredible experiences, but it's all for His glory. That's right. Right? Yep. So, we'd like to thank everyone for joining in with us tonight.
All these poor people who had to just listen to us reminisce.
We've been here for now 2 hours, but that's okay.
We'll be cut to a 2-minute video. I did just get a text from Jared to wrap this thing up. So.
Okay. So, guys, before we go, could we pray?
Yes.
Before we go and ask God, just because this is something too. Okay, we got no cameras. Okay. We're going to be doing a reunion. There's going to be a lot of students that are going to come back that are far from God.
That's right.
And I want to look at this as an opportunity to share the gospel. Because that's all that matters. So God's going to give us one big more time. Whatever.
Yes.
God's going to give us one more opportunity like this to have that many people in it, and that group will never be together again because they're going to be coming in. I've talked to people already from the early 90s that y'all don't even know, but they're going to come back. I talked